Hi, I'm Olivia, and welcome to Connecting the Dots in Early Childhood Education. In today's video, I'm super excited to share with you some tips that can help you to support little ones in desiring or wanting to communicate more frequently with you. Okay, let's get started. In today's video, I'm going to share some tips with you about how you can encourage communication with your own children or with your students. This video is especially helpful for both parents and early childhood educators. There are some things that we as adults can actively do to elicit communication from little ones. So here we go. Communication has a function. This is very important for us to remember. As adults, we know that communication has a function. However, children, especially in the early years, are still learning about why it's important to communicate. I know we often in early childhood settings may hear teachers saying things like, use your words, but sometimes this type of prompt is just not enough to get children talking. So you always want children to know clearly that by communicating, they are able to get their wants and needs met. Again, we want children to know that communication allows them to get their wants and needs met. And if this is the case, and we want to encourage communication, then we as the adults cannot anticipate their every need. Again, we as adults cannot anticipate their every need. Because if we do anticipate their every need or want or desire, what's going to happen is they're not going to make the connection that they need to communicate, because they're going to start to realize that the adults in their lives take care of all of those things for them. They don't need to communicate those to us. So tip number one would be to place some things that the child wants or likes within eyesight, but not necessarily within reach or access. What do I mean by this? You may want to put some of their favorite toys in a bin with a lid that they may need some help opening. So maybe the bin is clear, they can see what they want, they can access the bin, but they may need help opening it. Or you may want to put things on a shelf that is just slightly too high for them to reach. Now, I know this can feel counterintuitive because in the early childhood setting, we always talk about promoting autonomy in the classroom, and this is important. However, if you notice that you may have a child that you're working with who has some language delays, it's important that you embed some of these strategies as well. So while they may have access to a lot of different centers and areas and toys in the classroom, you may want to select a few of their preferred things and put those in a bin with a clear lid, or put them on a shelf that is just slightly too high, because this is going to encourage them to communicate for access. So instead of the child just having access to their favorite toy, they're going to have to communicate in some way. Now, depending on the child, they may verbally communicate or they may use some sort of gesture. It depends on their own development and what they're working on. So for example, in this type of scenario, verbalizations that we want to listen for or prompt are help, open, or they may just label the item, which is maybe it's a toy car they want. They might say car. If they verbalize any of those things or attempt to verbalize any of those things, you want help. Sure, I'll help you open the bin. Oh, open, you need help opening the bin. Car, oh, you want the car. Sure, here you go. If the child is not yet verbal or making verbalizations, you may want to support them in just putting their hand in a strong point and pointing. And while they're pointing, you might label car or open to help them internalize that language. It's important to remember also that communication is not only verbal. And for children who are not there yet, the first step is getting them to use gestures to request things or request help. So a point is a very intentional way of them communicating what they want, as opposed to just like a vague grasp. Really put their hand into a point and have them point to the item they want or the thing they need help with. And then you can label the actions or the items that you're using. Tip number 2, which is one of my favorite ones that you can embed into your classroom routines and into your music and movement time, is to use song and stories, and preferred and familiar songs and stories, and leave out words and have the child fill in the blanks. For example, Old MacDonald had a farm, and then prompt them to say E-I-E-I-O, or have them attempt to. Again, we're not looking for perfection here. Any sort of effort towards communicating is wonderful, and we want to praise it. So it might just be, Old MacDonald had a farm, uh, 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 uh. And if that's all the child said, I would praise that, be so excited, and continue on to the next verse of the song. And again, with repetition, the more we do this, the more children will try to fill in those blanks. And you can do this with any of your favorite songs or stories that are very familiar to your children or students. And then the last tip that I'm going to share with you today is that, again, as adults, we need to require more communication from children. We do not want to anticipate the child's every want and need. For example, if a child needs to get dressed in the morning, don't anticipate the child needing help getting dressed. Of course, in your mind, you know that the child may need help. But instead of helping them pull their arms through the sleeves, or button their pants, or put on their socks, encourage them to ask for help, or socks, or help with pants, whatever is appropriate for the child, and however many words they're currently stringing together. We want to really just promote them asking and requesting and communicating. Another example would be, don't anticipate that the child needs you to open their juice box. You might know that as the adult, that this child doesn't have the fine motor dexterity yet to open the juice box, but don't anticipate that for them. Encourage them to say something like, open, help. And then, of course, for example, don't anticipate the child wants more snack. Encourage them to ask for more. Or I know sign language, a very common sign is more. Whatever is appropriate for the child. And if they're not trying to verbalize, they're not trying to communicate, you will have to prompt them a little bit by saying, you can say help. You can say help. And then you can help them and fulfill their need if they're still not trying, but at least labeling and giving them a little wait period to encourage that communication is extremely important. Again, we need to build the connection for children that communication is what allows us to get our needs and wants met in life. And remember, the best way to encourage language is to really fill the child's world with a language-rich environment. Talk, sing, and read to children often. The more language they hear and are encouraged to use, the more they will communicate. I hope you found this video helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you found this video helpful. To find out more, please visit our website and all of our social media accounts. The links and handles can be found at the slide at the end of the video. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and to like our videos. It really helps us out. Until next time, bye.